Hello, I'm Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer at Functional Aesthetics EC. We're helping average guys perform better in their lives inside and outside the gym. So one of the most, I would say the second most common reason that I get from guys for why they don't exercise is that they don't have enough energy. All right? And interestingly enough, the very thing that will create more energy for you is exercising and eating right. But most fitness influencers, health gurus and stuff out there are already going to tell you that kind of stuff, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Instead of what I want to do today is give you some tips on how you can improve your energy so that you start to feel more motivated and more to go and exercise, which will then further increase your energy and get you all the other things associated with a more active and healthy lifestyle. So our lives today are anything but conducive to living to exercising and eating healthy. So in the past, we grew up, a lot of people were on farms. You're eating, homegrown vegetables, beef, milk, eggs off the farm, all these kind of things like that are good quality nutrition. Now exercise was an integral part of our day-to-day lives. Just to survive, we needed to exercise. Fast forward to today, if you don't want to, unless you're a construction worker, you work in manufacturing, other manual labor type jobs, a lot of jobs today, and in fact, a lot of the jobs that will pay you a lot more, don't require you to actually get out and exercise at all. You can stay at home if you work from home, or never actually leave the four walls of your office for the entire day that you are at work, and you still get paid, you'll still survive. Then, if you want to get food, you just go, you don't even have to leave your house necessarily to go to the grocery store. You can order it online and have it sent right to your house, which in some instances can be a convenience if you have a very busy life. Maybe it frees you up more time to do an actual constructive workout routine. But, as I said, all these things are not really conducive to living a healthier, more active lifestyle. Now, in the past, if you wanted to gain an edge, 150, 200 years ago, education was not the norm, right? Most people were not highly educated. If you wanted to become educated, you had to go to a university or something like that. But again, that was more expensive, even as it is today. And so usually it was more people that were already wealthy that would send their kids to colleges and universities. And so you really had to go out of your way to go and find a book. People would go to great lengths. So, for example, like Abraham Lincoln, he'd find some old books in the bottom of a barrel, or walk, many miles to get a book, or reading a book while he's plowing the field. So they'd go out of their way to gain this knowledge because they knew that it would help them improve their standard of living, expand their view of the world, and it raised them out of the dirt that they were in. Now, fast forward to today, success-minded people still read books and invest in courses and other forms of learning to help bring them up. And the good thing about today is that knowledge is more readily available than ever before. Now, there's more stuff to sift through, and this can cause some confusion as well, but that's besides the point. What has now become more the issue is that whereas exercise is more an integral part of people's lives in the past, now to get ahead, now to gain that edge with education and resources of that nature more readily available is to go and do exercise, to eat healthy. It's going to give you that edge because it's not as commonplace anymore, right? You have to go outside of your day-to-day life in order to be able to do those things. So it's similar to the guy or the gal of 150 to 200 years ago having to travel miles to get a book, to spend, their time in the evenings, right, studying and stuff to gain that stuff. Nowadays, we're doing this at work, right? So in the evenings or in the morning, early mornings and stuff, we can be creating that environment the same way as it's hard to get a book. Well, now it's hard to go and get that exercise in your day-to-day life. So now do have that same attitude that they had back then to level yourself up. So in today's video, though, if you haven't been, exercising consistently, you probably don't have the energy, the motivation to start structuring your life to be more conducive to a healthy lifestyle, right? And so what I want to do today in today's video is give you some simple tips that you can start implementing today to start gaining that positive energy, start gaining that momentum so that you will over time gain more and more energy. If you implement these steps and you do it consistently, maybe just add one per week, maybe just one per month, and just be consistent with it. That's the biggest thing. If you are consistent with habits, right, the results are going to follow. They can't help but not follow. The problem is when we try to bite off too much, more than we can chew, try to go from 0 to 60, in 5 seconds or whatever, and end up burning ourselves out because maybe our mental bandwidth isn't big enough to handle that. For example, if I'm doing a business or something, there's a lot of different strategies out there, but maybe the bandwidth is not there to be able to implement all those strategies right away, right? So I have to take time and do little things over time, right? Same thing with exercise. You have to do little things, but you do need to make sure that you are consistently moving yourself forward. A lot of times people use the excuse of, well, okay, I'm just going to do a little thing at a time, right? But if a year later you're still in the same spot that you were the previous year, obviously you're not putting in enough effort. So you don't want to go and try to pack on too much stuff that it just squashes you, right? But you want to make consistent, just pushing the edge a little bit, slightly outside of your comfort zone, right? Take those times to strategically, I'm going to get into that more later on in the video too and stuff, but be strategic about how you use your time so that you are pushing yourself, giving yourself a little bit of a break, and then gradually pushing yourself to go gain more and more ground over time. If you give a plant too much water too soon, you drown the plant, right? If it has too much sunlight, it's going to, burn up, right? It's going to dry out and it's going to die. If you have too much wind and adversity, right, it's going to get squashed. So you want to provide just enough, and you want to apply that pressure consistently. And consistency, again, is the key thing of this video, right? Consistency over time of applying these things to provide those results. So I've done enough rambling on the consistency bit. Let's get into the actual meat and potatoes of this. And what I want to start it off with is, again, that thing of what does it look like to start small, right? Where do you want to focus your effort on, right? So a good thing to do is the first thing when you get up in the morning is to try to get sun exposure in the eyes, right? It's going to increase your energy level. So a lot of times people talk about, how bad it is to have like blue light exposure in the evening, have all these synthetic lights and stuff on at night. And the reason for that is because the stimulus, and especially from the sun, is a stimulus for cortisol in the body to get your body into that state where it wants to go, and basically provides a stress and tells the body, is the catalyst to, okay, it's time to go out and do things, right? Now, ideally, you want that to be stimulated in the morning, you want it to peak about noon, and then you want that stress response to be declining into the evening. That's where the problem is. So if you don't do blue blockers and stuff like that during the early part of the day, because that's when the sun is supposed to be out. That's when you're supposed to be almost more stressed and stuff like that, right? It's the time of activity. It's the time of getting things done. Where you want to do that would be in the evening, because you don't want the cortisol. You don't want the cortisol always up. I talk a lot about that balance in life, the principle between yin and yang, right? You have the extroverted energy, you have that passive, more feminine energy, right? And so the same thing, sunrise, sunset. If you're always going, you're going to burn yourself out. But by the same token, if you're always, if you're relaxing too much, you're going to get soft and weak, and which is what happens when you're not exercising, right? Your health is going to deteriorate. You're going to have less energy and stuff. So you want to have a balance between those two. So first thing, early morning sun exposure to jumpstart that day, increase serotonin levels, have more energy, and just signal to the body that it's time to get up and do things. Now, I know for a lot of people, you might have an early morning job where you don't have the opportunity to get out and get some sun early in the morning. That was me for actually the majority of my adult life. So the past 16 years or whatever, I was, working jobs where I didn't get that opportunity to get that early morning sun exposure, right? But because I was already at work before the sun would come up. In that case, there are different artificial lights and stuff you can get to, or even just if you're looking at a screen or a phone first thing in the morning or something, it can wake you up as well, although it's not as ideal as the sunshine. In those cases, on the weekends, if you're already getting up before the sun anyway, make sure you get outside as the sun is coming up. Do what you can, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. All right. So the next thing would be also grounding your feet on the ground, right? That's going to help to get rid of EMF things, help to help you sleep better. Actually, if you sleep on the ground, it actually helps with sleep as well. I might make another video, or maybe leave some links in the link below if you're interested in reading more into the benefits of grounding and stuff. But suffice it to say that it is beneficial for helping you to have more energy, relieve stress, and also help you sleep better in the evening, which will help you have more energy during the day. And when it comes to exercise, so moving on to this next point, when it comes to exercise, and I kind of touched on this in the beginning of the video, you want to do things that are and I guess this would be, again, at the beginning of your day, right? So even as maybe you go out there and you're doing breathing, get in the sun, focus on rhythmic movements, preferably combined with deep breathing. So a perfect thing to do in the morning, if you're groggy, you're tired. When I wake up in the morning and I'm too tired and I don't feel motivated and I don't want to do anything, what I do is I started off with just doing breathing exercises, right? And maybe you do like one push-up, right? Just do one push-up or a plank. If you can't do a push-up, do a plank. Do that, then stand back up. That's already going to get your heart rate going up a little bit. Breathe. Do another one. Breathe. Then do something else. A great way to actually start the day is to do Tai Chi Chi Gong. That's actually why one of the reasons why a lot of these in a lot of these Oriental countries and stuff, a lot of the elderly people and stuff would be out there in the parks in the morning doing that stuff to kind of increase their chi or your life force, increase your energy by doing this. When you breathe in oxygen, it actually requires oxygen to metabolize sugar and stuff like that as well, right? So you're going to accelerate the activity of your cells in your body, increase mitochondrial activity, and thereby increase your energy levels. Another thing is that oxygen has this slightly negative charge. Hemoglobin in the blood has a slightly positive charge. When you're breathing more oxygen in, you're increasing this, you create a closed circuit, you increase the energy levels in the body as well. So a great way to increase your energy, to make it more likely that you will have the energy later in the day to do a workout, is to start off with breathing exercises. Go find some videos on how to do Qigong, Tai Chi, stuff like that. Learn a couple of simple movements, or learn like a short little routine, and practice doing that in the morning, see if it doesn't help. The other thing, by doing some of these things like taking a walk or a little jog or doing the Tai Chi, the yoga, is that it releases fatty acids into the bloodstream. It doesn't have to be a super intense workout, right? But when you release those fatty acids to your bloodstream, it starts creating more energy. So energy perpetuates energy. I'm fond of saying that energy is created, right? So if you want to have more energy, you have to provide the stimulus so that your body is incentivized to create more energy. So the first couple times you do this, you might not be doing a whole lot, right? Maybe you do 10 push-ups or something, right? And then you're like, okay, I don't have energy. I just feel super lethargic. I feel like, back in the day when I was working, I had for about a year straight, while I was transitioning jobs, right? I would work on the weekend. Every other weekend, I would work in 2 days, 30 hours, and then I'd get up the next day and work an entire another work week, and then I would have 2 days off, right? So 30 hours and an entire full day, full work week following that and stuff. And sometimes I would actually be so tired in the morning and stuff when I'd be going to work and everything that I could hardly breathe. My body was so tired that it was hard to breathe. But I got through it, and these are the things that I'm about to share with you later on in this video are some of those things that helped me get through these times when I was super tired, right? So I think I've beat that dead horse enough here. Let's see what else I got on my list here. Would be another thing is one of the biggest drains on your energy is emotional. Right? So if you are, don't sweat the small stuff. There's so many little things and annoyances and irritations that happen on a day-to-day basis. And if you are giving attention to all those different things, you're going to just drain your energy, bring your energy levels down. That's why it's really important, especially if you're in a hard period in your life when there just isn't too much positive in your life, is to find something that you can appreciate, right? And be grateful for that. Other things you can do is like mantra type things, right? I actually learned this from a guy on YouTube. YouTube, Elliot Hulse, right? Where he learned it from another guy, which is where you actually tie in this positive present tense emotion that you're trying to feel, tie it into a physical feeling in your body, right? So after you get done doing those breathing exercises and stuff that I talked about, you're going to feel a little bit more relaxed. You're going to feel a bit more receptive to things. Your energy level is going to be a little bit higher. In this state, you want to think back to a time when you felt happy, when, or think about something that does make you happy. And when you start feeling those positive emotions associated with that, maybe like as a kid on Christmas, he's looking forward to that, right? When you start feeling those positive emotions, then you state, after you're already feeling more positive in your body, you state the positive present tense affirmation of what you actually want to have your life look like. And because of that feeling, it implants that into your subconscious mind and automatically helps you steer your life in a more positive direction. If you're thinking about negative things all the time, if you're letting yourself get dragged down with all the baggage of the little things that people do on a day-to-day basis that irritates you, the things that, the leadership in the country, the leadership in your company or whatever does that just really ticks you off, then it's just going to bring your energy level down. It's going to make it harder for you to dig yourself out of that situation because you're not going to have as much energy. So at all costs, manage your energy. Don't sweat the small stuff. Be careful of the kind of stuff that you put into your mind. Feed your mind with the kind of stuff that you want your life to look like, not with the kind of stuff that maybe your life currently looks like. Okay? So then the next thing that I want to move on to would be to give your undivided attention to whatever task you're working on, right? Now, if you work for somebody else, you don't always have this opportunity to do this, right? But if you are working on projects at home, if you're doing bills, if you're, working on you're doing homework or something, when you have time that is your own, or in an ideal situation, if you're self-employed, right? What you would want to do is to schedule your work into 90-minute blocks, right? Because our bodies run on 90-minute cycles. Even our sleep runs in these 90-minute cycles, right? And so instead of trying to, this is a mistake I made when I was in college, right? The first time I went through college, right out of high school, I was like, I got to get this stuff done. I always, would liken it to a kid, rather than trying to learn the information, it was about how fast can I get this done so I can go out and play, right? So it's like a kid working on his chores. Okay, how fast can I get this done? Then I can go out and play, right? When you approach it and so what I would do is I would pack in sometimes 5 hours of studying in one single stretch. And obviously after the first hour, maybe 2 hours, your retention rate and the rate of learning is drastically decreasing every minute and hour that it passes, right? So instead of doing that, focus your time into these 90-minute blocks, right? And give your undivided attention to whatever task is at hand, no distractions, focus hard on it, get it done, and then at 90 minutes, go and do something that is the opposite, that is basically the like I talked about that yin-yang thing again, right? So this is your work time, go do something that is unrelated and that is enjoyable for you so that you feel excited to go back into the next block, right? If you're always doing things that you hate, if you're always doing things that you don't enjoy, you're not going to be motivated to go out there and do the hard things that you have to do, So you want to have that balance between hard, easy, hard, easy. But when you are doing the hard stuff, make sure that it is hard. Be focused. But when you're playing, do the playing stuff, right? Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is kind of almost similar to that, where you want to be scheduling your workouts strategically, right? One of the reasons that I call the business functional aesthetics is obviously I enjoy functional fitness training, right? So exercise that is actually more athletic in nature is going to make you a better athlete, make you prepared for more things in day-to-day life. Now, as I said, our day-to-day life might not actually require too much athletic things these days. But what happens if, you fall off a cliff or something like that and you have to hang on a tree branch for a long period of time, right? What happens if you get stranded somewhere and you need to be able to walk a long distance, What if you want to go on a family trip or a family vacation or something, and there's these things that you can't experience from the car? You have to go out and walk and see those things. Well, you want to be able to be ready for any of these kind of things. So I am a fan of that functional stuff, but the main reason I call it functional aesthetics is because your exercise and how you structure it into your life should be like you're training. Your life is a sport, and the exercise you're doing is helping you train for that sport. How you eat, how you sleep, how you structure your life is helping you perform better in every aspect of your life, instead of being an add-on. Oh, like when I have time for this. No, it's an integral part of your life that helps you actually perform better in your life. There's a lot of people with a lot of talent that is not actually expressed because of poor eating habits, not exercising and stuff. And I think about, like with me, I had ADD, was a slow learner, did not do well in a lot of areas in school and stuff. I hated school, and exercise is what actually, and having these structures in place and stuff, changes in my diet, not eating a lot of grain and sugar and stuff, increasing fats, vegetables and stuff, drastically improved my quality of living, my ability to focus, my ability to pay attention, and to get things done in my life. So if you're already doing well, just think about how much better you could be doing if you implement some of these strategies, right? Now, again, admittedly, it is easier to run away from something than to run towards something. If your life already looks pretty good and you're already comfortable, why it's really actually hard to become motivated to go out and do something that is uncomfortable, like exercise in the beginning, right? It's uncomfortable to do that. It's uncomfortable to study, right? And so it's hard to get motivated to do that. And that is why most people in America are not in great shape, right? And this is also why you don't see a lot of super wealthy people as well, because it takes discipline, it takes effort and stuff. And if life is already okay, pretty decent and stuff, to go and put in those extra hours of working, to go and put your, and take the risks to become an entrepreneur, to do things like that is going to be really hard. And so most people stay comfortable and complacent. But recognize that, if you step outside that comfort zone, you create a strategy with your exercise, right, to make it so that you actually perform better in your life, So, experiment with it. What times a day, and what kinds of exercise make it so that I actually feel better when I'm at work? What kind of exercise helps me sleep better, right? Whatever your, life requires of you. And I'm not in your life and stuff, but take a look at it, and experiment and be like, okay, when I do this exercise, man, I feel really beat down when I go out and do that long run. Maybe I'll do a combination. Maybe I'll do a hybrid, I do a little bit of lifting, do a little bit of running and stuff, blend them all together, see how I feel like that. Maybe I'll just do some explosive exercise and keep it real short, 10 minutes or something, right? And I feel really energized from doing that. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out thing, which that little section is starting to become. So I'm going to move on to the next section. Just as important as structuring and being strategic about your workouts, you also want to plan your recovery. All right. In this day and age, we have two extremes. We have people who are super sedentary, they don't exercise enough, and they don't eat right. And then you have people who are exercising to the extreme, right? We're doing 100. It used to be like when I was a kid in high school, it was like really impressive. If you've run a marathon, you are, really fit and you're a strong person, right? And then what it became though, now it's like, oh, you've only run a marathon. Well, I ran a 50-mile race. I did a 100-mile race, right? These ultra marathons and stuff. So we have these extremes like that as well. But just as important as exercising is also having a plan for recovering from that exercise so that you can come back stronger, and also making sure that it doesn't interfere with your day-to-day activities of living. And so this is where actually being disciplined about structuring your life and looking at, okay, where are all the obstacles that might come up to me being able to prepare healthy food? Where are the obstacles that might come up that get in the way of me actually exercising regularly? And then create a plan to get around those perceived obstacles. And then if other ones pop up, you go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, how do I get around that one? They say necessity is the mother of invention. Or like Bruce Lee said, life itself is your teacher, and you are always in a state of learning, right? To be one of by nature, exercise requires you to be overcoming stresses, right? To becoming stronger. And so if we're avoiding discomfort, if we're avoiding challenges, it basically defeats the purpose. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is fasting. This is actually something that has greatly helped me improve my productivity, and you don't have to be set in stone. Again, it's like another quote from that Eliot was fond of using, and that Ralph Waldo Emerson, he got it from Ralph Waldo Emerson, is that every action is measured by the sentiment from which it proceeds, right? So it's like if it's not helping you, you don't have to continue doing it. You don't have to be like, well, I was going to fast for 16 hours, so it has to be 16 hours to the minute. No, if your body actually requires that, and that's actually a good one of the benefits of being on a particular diet or doing fasting and stuff, is that you get in tune with what your body actually needs rather than, oh, it's just mealtime or something, right? And so then you can be more judicious about that. So I guess a little backstory. When I was in high school, breakfast was a huge meal for me, right? And from a scientific standpoint, that can actually kind of make sense, right? Insulin sensitivity is the highest in the morning, so it means that you're less likely to convert food that you eat to fat in the morning. It's also likely to provide you with more energy because of that insulin, allowing it to get into your cells for energy production easier. With that being said, if you do have a job where you're getting up really early in the morning, so you're already kind of tired and stuff, eating food first thing when you get up in the morning is maybe not the best thing, because it's kind of like your body hasn't got up to speed yet, and then you're putting this thing on there, it's going to make you feel tired. This is especially true if you are eating foods like, what people typically eat for breakfast. Breakfast burrito, you're eating like cereal, pancakes, waffles, things like that, muffins, because they're, like you say, comfort foods, right? The carbohydrates, especially combined with, like a little bit of protein, like in that milk and the cereal, releases serotonin, makes you feel more relaxed. So one of the first things I would say is, if you are feeling more tired in the morning and eating that, and you're finding you need to have coffee or something like that to wake yourself up, is maybe transitioning. If you do eat breakfast, if you don't eat breakfast, then disregard this, right? But if you do eat breakfast, transition to maybe having a higher protein and fat meal, so like a vegetable omelet or something like that when you get up. What this does is higher protein and fat actually increases dopamine levels. Dopamine is that motivation molecule. It basically motivates you to go and seek out and achieve things. That's definitely what you want the first thing in the morning. You want to have more dopamine. You want to have higher levels of motivation. So try that out. That actually helped me quite a bit when I switched from eating cereal to having a little bit higher fat and protein meal in the morning. Maybe not too much food either to, for your body to work on. Which brings me to my next point. When you eat food, it doesn't, unless you're eating straight up sugar, it's not getting utilized by your body right away. It has to go through the digestion process and then be released to the body for energy. So if you're eating more of your food later in the evening, when you're able to actually sit down and rest and relax and digest, now you're not interfering between running around doing stuff and then also trying to digest a meal. When you're eating the food, all that blood and oxygen and enzymes and stuff are all down in your stomach. They're working on that. So it's taking resources away from your brain, right? So now you have less blood and oxygen to run the functions of the brain so that it can perform optimally. So that is one of the benefits as well of the fasting. There was actually a marathon runner back in the 70s or something, and he would not eat breakfast before he ran the marathon. And they'd ask him why, and he's like, well, I ate plenty of food last night. I have all this glycogen, all this, fuel stocked away in my system. Why am I going to bog down and disrupt my digestive system by eating food before I go and do this race? That's the similar concept with that. Now, a key thing is, if you do decide to do fasting, make sure you're drinking plenty of water when you're doing your fast. Now, there is a thing that can actually help you too, to blunt your hunger levels when you are fasting, which is salt, okay? So a lot of times when you're not eating, you're going to get cravings for carbohydrates and sugar, and it's actually because your volume of your blood is decreasing. Well, if you increase your sodium intake, it actually increases blood volume, thereby decreasing cravings for sugar and carbohydrates, and helping you stay on your fast a little bit better as well. So if you want to write this down, the recipe is actually a thing called snake juice. There's a guy there, he's had a lot of fasting protocols and stuff. I can't remember exactly what his name was, but basically the recipe for the snake juice is you take 1 liter of water and you add half a teaspoon of sea salt, half a teaspoon of food grade Epsom salt, and then half a teaspoon of magnesium. I recommend this Pico solution from Carolyn Dean. It's this liquid stuff that actually helps you absorb it a lot better. There's a lot of different forms of magnesium, so you also want to look into getting the most absorbable forms, because some of them actually act more as a laxative. Different forms of magnesium perform different kind of functions in the body. And the last part of this is half a teaspoon of potassium. Mix that all up, you drink that throughout the day, helps you stay more full, less cravings, hunger, and stuff like that, and also helps keep you super hydrated like an electrolyte drink. So ditch the Gatorade, have this instead. Moving on here from the fasting thing, or I guess the last point I wanted to say is when you do break the fast, there's a lot of people that don't eat all day and then they, eat a big meal at night. Well, what they typically go wrong is they eat like a entire pizza or something like that, or they eat a bunch of like pasta or whatever, and so that basically defeats the purpose of the fast, because now you're really hungry and now you just dumped a bunch of this, overdid it and ate too much food when you broke the fast. So instead what you want to do is, the first thing you want to do is 20 to 30 grams of protein, high quality complete protein like an animal protein, is the first thing you should be eating. And then you can also, depending on how long you've been fasting, if you've only been fasting maybe like 16 hours or something, you can have fat and stuff with that. If you've been doing days long fasts, then you got to be a little bit more gentle with yourself, have lower fat things because they don't require as much and they're going to absorb faster, right? But otherwise, you could have things like eggs, you could have some chicken and avocados, have a little bit of fat and protein together, have some vegetables, and then, gauge how hungry am I? If I'm still hungry, if I still feel like I need it, then you can go ahead and have some form of starch or sugar, right? But make sure that the starch or the sugar is not greater than the quantity of protein in that meal. So if you had 20 to 30 grams of protein, you don't want to have more than like half a cup of rice, or a piece of fruit, or a cup of fruit, or something like that, right? Because then you'd be overdoing it on your carb portion. If you're still hungry after you have the protein, fat, veggies, and the carbs, start it over again, have some more protein, fat. Keep it always in balance when you're doing that. Getting towards the end here, actually, that's basically what the last thing that I wanted to say, except for probably one of the most important things to give you more energy, is to have a purpose. Right? What is your why? Why do you need more energy, right? Because if you have a goal, a very strong goal in mind, if you have a purpose for your life, a mission that you are on, then you're going to be motivated about finding ways to get more energy so that you can go and achieve your purpose. Leave no stone unturned. Figure out, how can I be the best version of myself so that I can complete the mission for myself, for my family, for my community, and provide more value to the world. So that's all I wanted to say today in today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out the algorithm, helps more people who would maybe possibly benefit from this video see this information. And if you like to see more content related to workout design, how to eat for optimal performance, aesthetics, fat loss, building muscle, also how to train around and prevent injuries that you might potentially sustain through a more active lifestyle, then consider subscribing to the channel by hitting the button in the lower right hand corner of the screen. And we'll see you all next time for more health and fitness related information. Thanks guys for watching.